And welcome back to the Financially Simple Experience. So friends, we've reached the last episode specifically designed to address dentists and the questions that I've been receiving through the Financially Simple blog. As I've mentioned before in the previous few episodes, even though I'm mentioning specifically dentists, the concepts are applicable to you and I who own other types of businesses. So just because you're not a dentist doesn't mean to tune out. This is really interesting information. And I've seen this information being applied in other market segments. So as I mentioned, you may be an auto repair company. You may be a financial advisor. You may be, even own a dry cleaning company. Whatever it is, you can still apply the same information to your particular business. Over the last few episodes, we've identified that, hey, we want to grow the value of our companies. And we know that we can grow the value of our companies by reinvesting within our business, taking some of the cash, not taking it home, and driving the value internally. We've looked at that. We looked at the idea of, hey, let's go out and buy a second location or a third location. Let's go out and buy a location. And that's a way we can drive our value. We've looked last episode about merging with another company, another practice somewhere. Let's merge. Let's gain some synergies. Let's get some cost reductions. Let's drive some income, and that drives our value. But there's still yet another option. Maybe you've looked in the marketplace, just like, dude, I do not want to invest any more money here. We're at saturated capacity here where we're located. We cannot do anything without significant cost, and the ROI is not going to be there during the time frame that I've laid out. So that's not an option. I've looked in the marketplace. There's no practice that I can buy or I would buy. So I can't buy one, and I am not going to merge with a DSO for whatever reason it is. Perhaps it's just I'm not going to let my patient quality or my patient experience change. Whatever your reason, the first three options are not there. So now you're saying, I need to drive the value of my company. So let's go out and start from scratch, cold turkey, just open up a new location. I think this is interesting because I'm actually helping a very, very, very successful dentist do this right now. So in my mind, I'm watching this particular client, and I'm hoping to share some of the things that is happening real time with a client right now through this particular decision. Aside from looking at the possibility of, I don't want to reinvest in my company, there's no business to buy, and there's no one for me to merge with, you also have to look at your family situation. Is your personal finances ready for disruption? In other words, do you have an emergency fund set back? Are you really debt heavy, or do you have capacity in your cash flow to reduce your cash flow? Is your family of such where they can afford you to spend more time than what you're currently doing in your business? That's right, because starting a location is going to require time more so than capital. And if so, then we're saying our current location is at capacity. I don't want to reinvest because their ROI is just not going to be there. And like I said, there's nowhere to buy, nowhere to merge. So if you find yourself in here, let's look at the pros, the reasons why you might consider starting the business in a new location from scratch. The first one is that it's still your business. That's a huge advantage. The same culture that you have in your current location or your current business, your current practice, can be superimposed in a new location. The style to which you operate, whether you're a dictatorial style practice where everything has to run through the doc, or whether you're a decentralized location where you have a practice manager and you have a true org chart set up, you can take whatever style practice you have or style business you have, and you can just simply duplicate it, and it has the same flavor, the same taste at the next location. If you think about it, this is how many franchises were created. Think about the McDonald Brothers franchise. If you've seen the story or read the book, it happened in this exact fashion. So I think it's really important to notice that we can make the second location our own business and be very similar. The other thing we can do is we can actually literally pick the location of the second based on current demographics, not past demographics. What do I mean by that? Whenever you go to buy a practice, oftentimes you're buying it based on a location. And the city or the township to which that location is placed may have since moved. So where the dock had been there for 15, 20, 30 years, the town may have moved into a different direction, geographically speaking, than where that location is. So by starting a practice from scratch, you can look at where the hub or where the current cash flow of your region, your city, your township is, and you can place your new practice within the geographical hub of the demographics that you need. So if you want to be a high-end cosmetic dentist that's going to require cash only, no insurance, and you want to make sure that the people who could afford such service were within your immediate geofence of your practice. You don't often have that luxury when you're buying or when you're merging. But when you're starting from scratch, you can literally pick the demographic to which to plant your new location. Another thing that happens whenever you start a practice from scratch is the economy of scale. The advantages of the economy of scale. According to Vestopedia, economics of scale are cost advantages reaped by companies when production becomes efficient. In other words, you can lower costs by spreading them out. So in my current client situation, they have a milling lab that allows them to produce an unbelievable profit. So now instead of having to go out and buy a second milling lab or buy a practice that already has one in there so they can continue their same particular treatment style, they can centralize the lab and create scale by not having to repurchase another very expensive machine. They get economies of scale. Another thing that happens whenever you start a second location is brand recognition. It improves. There's a study done by Zippa Research that found that consistent brand presentation, in other words, advertising, logos, various things, can increase revenue by up to 33%. One of the interesting things I see in the service industry, and you may see this now when I talk about it in your locale, is you'll find somewhere that has like a heating company, and the heating company finds synergies by getting heating and plumbing, and the heating and plumbing company now has some sort of other service, whether it be restoration, etc. Well, then they plaster their brand everywhere on these trucks, and the truck, literally everything in the company is logoed. They may have one location that they have bought up multiple different businesses to place in one location, but now they branded themselves to create great brand presentation and as the vehicles are moving all across the city. I'm thinking about Orkin, for example, Orkin Pest Control. It's everywhere. Here in the Southeast, we have ServPro, which is a restoration company. You see their green trucks everywhere. And it's brand recognition. The same thing happens, though, when you create duplicity of brand. When you go into a second location that's in the heart of the demographic you desire, you instantly drive credit to your mothership, to the very first location, because of the presence of brand recognition. It's one of the advantages of starting a new location. What are the disadvantages? Perhaps the greatest disadvantage is you personally, as the owner, are going to lose time. You're going to have less discretionary time. You see, whenever you go buy a business, so much has already been created. But when you start a business, you plant a new location somewhere, especially a new dental practice. Now you, the owner, are going to be spending time with architects, engineers, construction, operations, technology, marketing, banking. There's so much that you yourself have to do in addition to working at your current location to provide for your family and your current requirements. So you're going to lose more time, which is why I asked them the question at the beginning of the episode, is your family ready for you to be gone a little bit more? Whenever this current client that I'm helping, we spoke through this, but I didn't realize the sheer amount of time that he was going to have to dedicate to this move. Even though we started a practice originally, it was different because he wasn't having to work a full-time position already as a high producer. And on top of that, start a second location. So time is perhaps the greatest con, the greatest disadvantage to starting from scratch a second location. Another one is a greater potential for failure. A greater potential for failure. You see, whenever you start a practice or start a business, there's already a 20% of fail rate in the first 2 years, according to the Small Business Association. And then the number goes to 45% in 5 years and 65% within 10 years. Well, no doubt if you're looking at starting a second location, more than likely you passed that 10-year mark and now you're solvent. But as I mentioned before, you are already dedicated to the current production that you're making right now to support your family, the lifestyle that you have, and the team which you're supporting. Now you're going to start a second location, which is going to require more time, which is also going to increase your failure rate. It's going to increase your failure rate. Now, there's ways you can mitigate it. You can mitigate it by saving up tons of cash. You can mitigate it by hiring consultants. You can mitigate it by hiring employees to take additional employees and staff up. All of which costs money, right? So it's time or money. But there is nonetheless a greater potential for failure. The financial risk, oh my goodness, friends, the financial risk in starting a second location is dramatic. It's dramatic. The average cost of starting a dental practice is between $350,000 and $500,000. That's not including the actual location or the equipment. That's just the pure cost in getting it to efficiency or to getting it to maintain itself. So you're really making a decision on potentially a $500,000 investment that you may lose. When you put it that way, starting a business is costly. Doesn't mean it's not worth doing, but it is costly. There are going to be unexpected expenses that come up. There's going to be management challenges. There's going to be things that you can't even foresee that's going to come up, which is going to cause potential problems. You say, Justin, I hear you, man, but I want to do this. All right. What can you do then to make it successful? I'm happy to say that this practice that we've been coaching through this time, almost 3 years on a coaching plan, getting it all, we're now in the process and we're in the weeds and the battle is happening and we are winning the battle. We are going to take the second location and it is moving into a dynamic approach right now. How can you do the same? You've got to consider the timing of starting a second for your personal as well as your professional life. Look, as a dad who has my first child approaching college, I would not at this point in my life want to spend the extra time and energy away from my kids because of their age. 5 years ago, no big deal. 5 years ago, okay. But right now, we're building some precious memories that I'll never get back. So you got to consider the timing of starting a second location in your personal life. Let's talk about your professional life. Maybe you have certain designations or certain trainings or certain procedure processes you want to learn. You want to learn those before you ever launch into starting a location. In order to be successful in starting a second location, you have to approach it as a startup business. That means you're going to have to conduct market research. You're going to have to identify your competitors. You're going to have to determine the customer demographics. You're going to have to know your marketing strategy. You're going to have to determine realistic timelines to carry out. You're going to create a comprehensive business plan, truly create a comprehensive business plan. You're going to create a cash flow plan, maybe a pro forma that's extremely detailed. You've got to secure funding. And you've got to start training your team to move a team that's going to be in 2 locations. You got to do all that while still maintaining your current location. So if you're considering starting another practice, you have to think of this as a true startup. Let's go back to my statistic on 20% of businesses fail. According to the SBA in the first 2 years, 45% fail in the first 5 years. Why? Let's ask that question. Why do they fail? The reason for it is they run out of capital and they didn't plan. They didn't plan and they run out of capital. They overestimated. They didn't plan for the worst, hope for the best. So friends, I'm going to wrap it up by saying this. You can be successful in starting up another location, and it can be highly, highly lucrative for you as the owner. It can drive your value of your practice through the roof. But you need to take a step back if you're going to do this. Get somebody along your side who's done this. Get somebody along your side who can make sure that your blind spots are covered. And even then, it's still going to be stinking hard. And there's no way you can cover everything. You're going to have a team around you to help you because you just don't have the same time you did when you started to practice the first time. Things are different now. We're dealing with a whole different economic world now than we were 5-10 years ago. Am I selling not to start a practice? No, they're fun. They're fun. They're exciting. They put you on the edge of your seat. I mean, it is feast or famine. It is a ride if you like riding as an entrepreneur. But if you're going to go that world, don't get frustrated. Realize it's going to be hard, but we can make it easy by getting the right people alongside you. If you need help, reach out to us. That's what we do. Friends, it's been fun talking to specifically dentists. If you're a dentist, you need help. We know how to do it. You're not a dentist. Apply these same things to your life. Apply these same things to your business. Where are you at? Is now the time for you to invest more in your company to drive the value? Should you perhaps buy another location, another business? Should you perhaps merge with an organization group or merge with another private company? Or should you maybe start a second location? Friends, these are the most common things I see to drive value. What is your plan? I'd love to hear. reach out to me through one of the social media apps. I'm in all of them, maybe through the blog, financiallysimple.com. Maybe grab a copy of the book, Your Baby's Ugly. It can help you think through these concepts. Until next time, friends, y'all make it a great day.